Ooh, Hello YouTube, it is I, Vincent, back again with another video. And today we are going to be talking about a brand that absolutely dominated the 80s. The brand that Motley Crue and Eddie Van Halen alike used, Kramer guitars. And more specifically, we are going to be talking about why absolutely nobody uses them or talks about Kramer in 2025. To show everybody that I'm not just being an ODD1 hater because everybody on the Schecter video thought that I hate Schecter. Here is the Kramer that I own, that I bought with my own money, that I love with all of my heart, and that I use live all of the time. And with all that being said, let's get started with the video. So first off, in the glory days, in the 80s, Kramer guitars were absolutely everywhere. It was the peak of pop culture at the time. If you just turned on MTV, you just see guys like Motley Crue and Van Halen just shredding on Kramers all day. They were the absolute peak of cool. The neon colors, the Floyd Rose, the high output pickups. They were just the pinnacle of what made guitar cool back in the days. But then the tragic 90s took over. Grunge took over, nu metal took over, and suddenly shredding wasn't as cool as it was in the 80s. Nobody wanted to look like a giant neon zebra anymore, and people wanted more traditional offerings. Other 80s powerhouses like ESP and Ibanez, they saw the writing on the wall, and they very quickly adapted what they were doing to change with the time. They slimmed down their offerings, they pushed innovation, and they leaned a lot into new and developing genres. Meanwhile, Kramer just kind of stayed in 1987, not really doing much after that. And this kind of bleeds into my first main point about why I don't think Kramer's as cool anymore, is that they didn't really try to adapt with the changing times, really at all. Like I said, Ibanez and ESP, whether it was the abalone and EMG craze of the 2000s, or the Evertunes and multi-scales and Fishmans of today, they've always been adapting with the times and giving guitarists exactly what they want. Kramer, on the other hand, while I do love the Floyd Rose and Seymour Duncan JB combo on the neon purple guitar, I do recognize that this is not necessarily what is cool with the kids today. The next point as to why I think Kramer has kind of fallen off in the recent years is that Kramer doesn't really endorse anybody that you would consider culturally relevant. I mean, sure, you got the Megadeth signatures, which are cool and I love them, but like, look at Ibanez, who has Steve Vai, Tosin Abasi, Tim Henson, and then you got ESP, and how they've got Slipknot, James Hetfield, George Lynch, and even Jackson, who I don't particularly like that much nowadays. They still got Misha Mansour on board. But Kramer, who do you got? You got Megadeth, and I honestly don't even know. I'm gonna look this up right now, because I honestly don't even know.
2 hours later.
So Kramer doesn't even have a page on their website for their endorsed artists, so that should be pretty telling of the problem here. And this kind of goes into my next point, where guitar culture is just different. It's just different. Kids nowadays, they're not trying to be Eddie Van Halen, you know? They're trying to be Tim Henson. The super pointy headstocks, the Floyd Roses, the bright neon colors. That's just not cool now. That's just not what is relevant with the kids. It's a little bit too hair metal for the modern era. And while we have seen bursts of this influence come back, like I feel like bright colors have absolutely made a comeback in recent years, I still feel like the overall 80s guitar is still kind of out of style. Now on to my final point. I do not know which number this is because I feel like I have been talking for an eternity now. And that is build quality and competition. Back in the day, if you had a Kramer with a Seymour Duncan and a Floyd Rose, you were set. That was the bar. That was the pinnacle of technology. That was, you were basically in the future if you had a Kramer with a Floyd Rose and a Seymour Duncan. And those old 80s Kramers, creme de la creme, the quality, amazing, amazing. But now, every single company out there is putting out crazy guitars with crazy specs, with crazy good quality at every single price point. And it's just incredibly competitive nowadays. And even though I love my Kramer, I think it is perfect in every single way, and it will always stay my main live guitar. There are some people that believe that the modern Kramers just frankly don't have the same quality as they used to back in the day. And I don't blame people for really thinking that, because if you were to walk into any Guitar Center, you're not gonna see the expensive, high-performance import models what you're gonna see is the cheap $200 models, and then you're just gonna assume that that's all that they got for Kramer. Because when you look at brands like ESP or Schecter or Ibanez, they're gonna have offerings at every single price point, from the cheap stuff up to the really expensive stuff. But you're not gonna see the expensive Kramers at Guitar Center, you're just gonna see the cheap stuff. And you're just gonna assume that all Kramers are cheap, and you're not even gonna have a second thought about it. So in conclusion, back in the 80s, when shred was king, Kramer was king. However, as that fell out of the public consciousness, so did Kramer. Between not really adapting their specs for the modern player, not really endorsing any modern guitarists, and kind of being stuck in their own shadow, they've kind of struggled to stay relevant in the 2020s. Do I think Kramers are bad? Absolutely not. As you can see, I literally own one. But I would be delusional to say that Kramer is not a struggling brand in 2025. Anyways, what do you guys think? Do you guys think Kramer is doomed to stay in their old 80s shadow, or do you think that a redemption arc is possible for them? Feel free to drop your thoughts below in the comments section, and don't forget to leave a like and a subscribe. But with all that being said, that is all that I have for now. I will see you next time. Goodbye!